All right, we're going to go over the odd ones. When's your test? Tomorrow. So for the first part, we have to rewrite each polynomial in standard form. Don't forget to put it in standard form and then classify by the degree and number of terms. So if it only has one term, it's already in standard form. How can we classify this by degree? By the exponent. So what does the 3 mean? Cubic. And then how many terms do we have? Monomial. Perfect. So one term means monomial. All right, for number 3, we have to put it in standard form. So what would come first?
The 9, 5, negative 9, 5.
Negative 9x to the 5th power. What comes next?
Negative 2x.
Negative 2x squared. And then?
9x.
9x. And then? 5. So we start with the highest degree and then just go down from there. So the highest degree is 5. Then our second highest was 2. Then 1. And then none. All right, so how would we classify this by degree?
By the 5.
What do we call something with the degree of 5? Quintic. I'll give you guys the word bank again. But you have to know what each one means. How many terms do I have?
Isn't it more than 4 terms or something?
Polynomial of 4 terms. Remember, if we have like terms, you have to combine them. So here we don't have an example if we had like terms. But if we had one, let's say that it was 2n plus 4 plus 3n. How would I write this in standard form? 5n plus 4. So then how would I classify this by degree?
It's 1.
Our degree is 1, so what would you call something with the degree of 1?
Linear.
Linear. And then how many terms do we have? 2, so it'd be a binomial. So always simplify, combine like terms first. All right, number 5, we have to describe the end behavior of the polynomial. So which term am I looking at here? X to the 6th power. The rest of it doesn't matter. I'm just looking at the term with the highest degree. Is it positive or negative?
Positive.
So what does the right arrow do?
Up.
Right arrow goes up. Is it even or odd?
Even.
So the left one goes up also. So they go in the same direction when it's even. For number 7, which term do I look at? X to the 9th power. The rest of it doesn't matter. So is it positive or negative?
Positive.
So what does the right arrow do?
Up.
Right arrow goes up. Even or odd?
Odd, so it goes down.
Odd. So they go in opposite directions. The left one goes down.
Can you do a negative one?
Sure. Let's look at number 8. Which term do I look at here? Negative x to the 5th power. The rest of it doesn't matter. So if it's negative, what does the right arrow do? The right arrow goes down. Is it even or odd? Odd. So what's the left arrow going to do? Up. They go in opposite directions. So if the right one's going down, the left one goes up. Good with these? All right, number 9. We have to find all zeros and graph. So finding the zeros, we set each piece equal to 0. So here I have x is equal to 0, negative x plus 2 equals 0, and negative x plus 5 equals 0. So this one's already solved. How would I solve the second one? Add x. So I get 2 is equal to x. How do I solve the third one? Add x again. So what does x equal? 5. So I have x is equal to 0, x is equal to 2, and x is equal to 5. So I need to put those on my graph. So a point at 0, a point at 2, and a point at 5. What's next?
I have a question. Does the 5 become positive when you do...
Oh, it should be negative. Sorry, I wrote the question wrong. This should be negative 5. negative 5. So we go to the left 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good call. All right, what's next? So we have to determine our end behavior. So how many x's total do I have? 3, so it's x to the third power. Do any of those have a negative in front? If 2 of them have a negative in front, what do 2 negatives make? A positive. So this is a positive x cubed graph. If it's positive, what does my right arrow do? Right arrow goes up. Is it even or odd? So what's the left arrow going to do?
Down.
Down. And then what happens in the middle?
Goes like through.
We go through and connect the dots. So the only time you can cross the x-axis is at one of your points. That's it. Any questions here? All right, let's do number 11. So I have to set each one equal to 0. X plus 5 equals 0, x minus 4 equals 0, and x plus 2 equals 0. How do I solve for x? Subtract 5, so x is equal to negative 5. Then I would add 4, so x is equal to 4. Bradley, what do I do for the third one? How do I solve for x? Subtract 2, so x is equal to negative 2. So I put those on my x-axis. So I have a point at negative 5, a point at negative 2, and a point at 4. What do I do next? I have to figure out where my arrows go. So I have 3 x's, so it's x to the third power. Do any of them have a negative? No, so it's a positive x to the third power. So if it's positive, what does my right arrow do? Right arrow goes up. What does my left arrow do? Down. Since it's odd, they go in opposite directions, and then we just connect the dots in the middle. Any questions here? Let's do number 10 also. All right, so for number 10, I set both of these equal to 0. So what does x equal in the first one? 1. What does x equal in the second? 4. So I would add 4 to both sides, so 4. So I put those points on my graph of a point at 1 and a point at 4. Next is my end behavior. So I have 2 x's here. It's x squared. Do any of those x's have a negative in front?
Yes.
Yep. How many? 1. So it's a negative x squared graph. So if it's negative, what does my right arrow do? Down. If it's squared, is it even or odd? So do they go in the same direction or opposite? Same. So if the right one goes down, the left one goes down too, and then we go through both of the points like that. All right, so number 2, how do I put it in standard form? It already is in standard form. So then how would I classify it by degree?
You take the x and you degree that as 1.
So if it doesn't have a degree above the x, it's a degree of 1. So then it would be linear. And then how many terms do I have?
2, so it's binomial.
2, so it would be binomial. All right, so how can I graph this? What should I do first?
Look for the, or you find out, like, how do you find it here? How do you take like the signs and then you look for the x's to see?
So I'm finding the zeros. So x equals 0, x plus 2 equals, x minus 2 equals 0.
I couldn't name it.
x plus 3 equals 0. Negative x plus 4 equals 0. So x equal to 0 is already solved. How do I solve the second one? Add 2, so x is equal to what? 2. How do I solve the next one? Subtract 3, so x is equal to negative 3. And then how do I solve the fourth one? So I can add x to both sides. 4 equals x. If you wanted to, you could subtract 4 and then divide by negative 1. That works also. So then I put these on my graph. I have a point at 0, a point at 2, a point at negative 3, and a point at 4. How many x's do I have here? 4 x's. Do any of them in the question have a negative in front? 1. So it's a negative x to the 4th power. If it's negative, what does my right arrow do? Right arrow goes down. Even goes down too. Awesome. And then I can only cross my x-axis at these points. So you just cross at each point. So next we're going to be factoring the sum of cubes. So the formula we use here is a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared. You guys have to know this formula for tomorrow. This is our sum of cubes formula. So next I have to figure out what a and b are. So if a cubed is equal to x cubed, what is just a? X. So everywhere I have an a, I'm going to plug in x. And then if b cubed is equal to 8, what is just b? 2. Perfect. Because 2 times 2 times 2 gives us 8. So everywhere I have a b, I'm plugging in 2. And then I have to simplify. So what would go in my first parentheses? X plus 2. And then what comes next? X squared minus 2x plus 4. Perfect. We have to do 2 squared, which is 4. So b cubed is 8. So b cubed, 2 cubed is 8. So same thing that we technically did before. We can get rid of the cubes, so that's why b is equal to 2. All right, let's look at 13. So again, my formula is a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared. So if a cubed is equal to 64x cubed, I need to figure out what a is. So what number cubed gives me 64? 4. And then x cubed would be x. So don't forget the x. If you have an x in the question, you need it here. Next, I have b cubed. B cubed is 125. So then what is just b? 5. Perfect, because 5 cubed gives me 125. So everywhere I have an a, I plug in 4x. And everywhere I have a b, I plug in 5. So then how would I write my answer? 4x plus 5 times? Perfect. 4x squared, you have to square the 4 and square the x. So this is 16x squared. And then here I have to multiply 4x times 5, which would be what? Negative 20x. And then 5 squared? Plus 25. All right, let's go to 14. So again, my formula is a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared. So if a cubed is 27x cubed, what is just a? 3x. Awesome. And then if b cubed is equal to 8, what is just b? 2. So everywhere I have an a, I plug in 3x. And everywhere I have a b, I plug in 2. So what would my first parentheses be? 3x plus 2. Next, I have 3x squared. So don't forget, you have to square the 3 and square the x. So what does this turn into? 9x squared. Then I have 3x times 2, which turns into what? Negative 6x. And then 2 squared? Plus 4. That's the answer. So we do the same thing here, but the only difference is our formula is a little bit different. So here we have a minus b, a squared plus ab plus b squared. So difference of cubes, the formula goes minus plus plus. So then here, if a cubed is 64, what's just a? 4. So everywhere I have an a, I plug in 4. If b cubed is 125x cubed, what's just b? 5x. So everywhere I have a b, I plug in 5x. All right, so then my answer, how would I write the first parentheses? 4 minus 5x. What comes next? 4 squared is 16. Then I have 4 times 5x, which would be plus 20x. And then 5x squared. Don't forget, you have to square the 5 and square the x. So what would this be? 25x squared. Awesome. So then that's the answer. All right, what's my formula that I use? Perfect. A minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared. So if a cubed is 64, m cubed, what is a? 4m. So everywhere I have an a, I plug in 4m. If b cubed is 27, what's just b? 3. So everywhere I have a b, I plug in 3. So then how would I write my answer? 4m minus 3. What is 4m squared? 16m squared. What is 4m times 3? 12m. And then 3 squared? Plus 9. Perfect. Yes. All right, let's do one more of those. So here my formula is a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared. So if a cubed is equal to 1, what's just a? 1. Perfect. And then if b cubed is equal to x cubed, what's just b? X. So everywhere that I have an a, I plug in 1. And everywhere I have a b, I plug in x. So what would my first parentheses be? 1 minus x. And then what's 1 squared? 1. And then 1 times x would just be x. And then x squared is just x squared. And that's the answer. Next, we're going to factor by grouping. So remember, when you have 4 terms, we group the first 2, we group the second 2. So step 1, group the first 2, group the second 2. Now I want to take out a greatest common factor in the first group. So what's my greatest common factor here? X squared. So I'm going to divide both of these by x squared. I write that x squared on the outside. And then I'm left with x cubed minus 3x. Oops, just kidding. What am I left with when I take out an x squared? X minus 3. In the second group, what's my greatest common factor? 4. I can divide both of these by 4. So when I divide both of them by 4, what am I left with? X minus 3. So I have to have the same things here in order to write the answer. So I have the same parentheses, so I'm good to go. How would I write my answer?
X squared plus 4. And then parentheses x minus 3.
Perfect. Whatever's on the outside goes together, and then the inside stays as 1. What do I do first for number 19? Group them. Group the first two, group the second. What's the greatest common factor I can take out in the first group? X squared. So I'm taking out an x squared. What am I left with? Perfect, x minus 3. What's the greatest common factor I can take out in the second group? Positive or negative 3? Why do we want it to be negative? Well, because there's a negative 3, and if we take out a negative 3, it becomes a positive x. And then if we divide 9 by negative 3, it becomes a negative 3. So we need our parentheses to look exactly the same. That's why we have to divide by negative 3. So I take out a negative 3, and what am I left with? X minus 3. Perfect. So then how would I write my answer? Perfect. So the 2 on the outside go together, then the 2 on the inside become 1. Yes, the insides will always look the same because they just combine to be one thing. So you just rewrite it, but they always have to be the same thing.
Do you have to write equal 0?
You don't have to, because we're just factoring, so. If we were to solve, then we would want it to be equal to 0 because then we could solve from there, but we're just factoring. So once we get the parentheses, we're done. Any questions here?
The exponents have to be the same too, right? Like, if that was like 3 squared, that would mean...
Right, it has to be the same thing, the same exact thing in both of them. All right, last one. What should I do first? Group them. What's the greatest common factor I can take out in the first group? X squared. So I have x squared. Damien, what am I left with when I take out x squared? X minus 3. Tara, what's the greatest common factor I can take out in the second group? Can I divide negative x by 3? 1, but if I take out a 1, will I get x minus 3 on the inside? What number would change the signs? Negative 1. So I'm going to take out a negative 1. So what am I left with when I divide both of these by negative 1? Tara? What happens to the x? What's negative x divided by negative 1? X. And then what's 3 divided by negative 1? Negative 3. So are the parentheses the same? Yep. Perfect. So then how would I write my answer? Matthias?
X squared minus 1.
X squared minus 1 and
And then
x minus 3. Awesome. So whatever's on the outside goes together, and then the insides go together. So that's our answer. So this was a question that was on the quiz. It gave us the graph, and it said describe the leading term. So it gives us the end behavior. So now we just have to see, where do these arrows come from? So it starts going down and ends going up. Do you think this is positive or negative? What's the right arrow doing? The right arrow goes up, so it's positive. And then is it even or odd?
Odd.
Odd, because they're going in opposite directions, so it's odd. So it's positive and odd. What if I had one that looks like this?
Should it be negative? No.
Positive
Even.
and even.
So the right one is going up, and the left one goes up. So if the right one goes up, it's positive. And if they both go up, even or odd?
Even.
Even.
I don't let you finish, that's why.
Yeah.